there, studio music teacher friends. Welcome to the Beyond Measure podcast with me, Christina Whitlock, and I'm here to serve as your anytime piano teacher friend, ready to offer a solid dose of camaraderie to any studio music teacher who needs one. We are here in the 5th installment of my summer bookshelf tour, where I'm attempting to extract 3 highlights from some of my favorite music teacher reading material. I've been fielding all kinds of messages from those of you who have been ordering and loving these books, and that makes me so happy. Links to these books and other things I love can always be found at christinawhitlock.com/favorites, so be sure to check that out, okay? In the meantime, today we are talking about a book that has become the anthem for creative living in so many artists in so many fields. Maybe you've guessed it, but up today is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. That's what we're up to today in episode 133 of the Beyond Measure podcast. As I just mentioned, Big Magic is a book that was met with, well, big success. Much like her breakout hit, Eat, Pray, Love, this book by Elizabeth Gilbert is full of ideas that you might find yourself agreeing with, or maybe not. What makes it great, though, is the amount of food for thought that it offers. When I read Eat, Pray, Love, I at first didn't think that it lived up to the hype. Yet it is a book that I find myself thinking about from time to time, like long after the fact. And that, to me, really is the truest mark of what I would call a good book. I've had that experience with several books and movies and courses in school. You just don't know what is going to leave an impression on you until you get some time removed from that experience. And honestly, that's music teaching in a nutshell, right? Like, we are playing the long game as teachers. Our students can't possibly understand the true impact of our work with them in this moment. I mean, sure, they can enjoy it, but they don't understand the life skills that we are equipping them with through this art form. They don't know that we're teaching them discipline and authenticity and creative thinking and problem solving skills. I mean, they just think that they're playing music that they like. We are planting seeds, and only time will tell what's going to grow from that. And such it is with a good book, right? I have read many books in my lifetime that I thought were excellent in the moment, but I can't tell you anything about them now. That's telling, isn't it? And since I've just found myself on this little tangent, we're going to consider that my first takeaway from Big Magic, shall we? Takeaway number 1 is the fact that you never know what will make an impression until you remove yourself from that source for a while. Oh man, that's one I'm going to have to take to my journal because, wow, there are a lot of implications there. Okay, takeaway number 2. Perhaps the biggest question raised by this book, and the one I hear repeated the most often. Do ideas come to you or from you? Elizabeth Gilbert tells this incredible story about a very specific idea for a novel that she was working on, and for many reasons, it just never got off the ground. She found herself later talking to a writer friend who then described an eerily similar plotline for her new writing project. And Elizabeth Gilbert proposes that there are times when ideas exist in the universe, and if they come to you and you don't pick them up, then they will eventually go elsewhere. It's a fun thing to think about, right? And I have to admit, it actually played a really strong factor in getting me to start this podcast. Like, once I had the vision for this idea of coming alongside teachers and serving as like a friend to the profession, I knew that there was some kind of merit to it, but I kept talking myself out of it until I considered how I would feel if Elizabeth Gilbert was right. Like, what if someone else came along and branded themselves as your anytime piano teacher friend? I would have been, gosh, I don't even know what the word is. Like, dejected, maybe? I don't know. I would have felt like I missed a real opportunity. And it turns out that, hey, making the leap was an amazing choice for me. So, score one for claiming your ideas before someone else does, okay? Seriously, in music teaching, there is very little new under the sun. I can't tell you how many times I have sat in a conference session or read an article and said, "Ooh, I thought I was the only one who said that." It's just because we are such a stunningly brilliant segment of the world's population, friends. I mean, if one thing is certain, it's the fact that music teachers are in great company, right? Anyway, we're going to call that takeaway number two, the question of, do ideas come to you or from you? And maybe in the end, it's a little bit of both, but I don't know. You'll have to message me this week and tell me what you think. Takeaway number three for the week, the paradox of creative living. In her chapter titled Permission, Elizabeth Gilbert discusses a life altering interview with songwriter Tom Waits, who she credits as being one of the most articulate and wise conversationalists about creative living that she's ever embarked upon. So, there are lots of great things in that chapter, including the idea of music as intracranial jewelry, as in music is simply jewelry for the insides of people's minds. I mean, don't you kind of love that? Like, we are creating decorations inside other people's heads, and we get to choose what we are decorating them with. Maybe it's moody and dark, maybe it's shiny and sparkly. Anyway, intracranial jewelry sounds pretty cool to me. Maybe my studio needs that as a new tagline. Along with this notion, Gilbert introduces us to what she calls the central paradox. And it goes like this. I'm quoting from page 135 here. My creative expression must be the most important thing in the world to me if I am to live artistically, and it also must not matter at all if I am to live sanely. Okay, I will confess that the first time I read that, I got a little caught up in this idea of ranking the absolute most important thing in my world. So let's not get caught up on that, okay? Because I think most of us would not consider our creative expression to be our most important thing. But let's take this idea and just run with it for another minute, okay? I run into this in my own head all the time. I know what I do is important. I try to champion music teachers at every opportunity because I do think that we are helping to support the success of society with what we do. I think the character development we offer and the artistic forces that we help cultivate for the world are incredibly significant. And at the same time, it's piano lessons. It's music. It's something that should not carry with it the weight of the world. It should not feel like a burden, and it should feel like a luxury, even if it is at the same time a core necessity. In teaching, we should strive to do our very best work. Of course, we should. We should engage in consistent professional development, and we should step up and show up for our students, even when we don't feel like doing it. But at the same time, we can't take ourselves too seriously. We can't try to carry the weight of every single thing on our shoulders, and we have to accept that we are imperfect beings. We have to be quick to forgive ourselves, and we have to understand the reality of setting high expectations is that you will not meet every single one of them. Okay, that's good stuff, right? I would strongly encourage you to read Big Magic for yourselves. I've read it in print. I've also listened to the audiobook read by the author, and I would recommend both. So, if you need a push to embrace yourself as the creative creation that you are, this is a great first step. It's an easy read. Those pages can fly pretty quickly on this one. And again, just because you don't agree with every single premise she raises, it does not negate the potential for impact that this book can have. So now, let's toast ourselves out of here, shall we? Grab that nearest glass. Studio music teacher friends from all across the world, I just want to give you one big high five for all the work that goes into being a music teacher. I mean, very few professions in life draw on skill sets that we started when we were 6 years old, right? Now, I don't know how old you were when you started being a musician, but I do know it was probably quite a while ago. We are educated, experienced, and we spend way more time at this teaching gig than anyone else understands. And while teaching is one outlet of our creativity, in most of our cases, that's not the end of it. So I hope you will strive to embrace the creativity that you bring the world around you this week. Without people to flex those creative muscles, this world is a drab place, don't you think? I hope you can move forward this week really contemplating the creative paradox that, on one hand, music does save people. It gives us a way to communicate what words cannot. It offers a sense of identity and belonging to those who struggle to fit in anywhere else. And it provides a livelihood that just keeps on giving. It's essential to human survival, in my opinion. And at the same time, we are not holding a scalpel operating on someone's brain. We are not choosing life or death for our students. Our fate does not hang in the balance of one successful lesson. And knowing that, we have to lighten up sometimes. Let ourselves off the hook. Take vacations, turn off the phones, whatever that means to you. I'm raising my glass to you, my creative friend. Here, here. I hope you enjoyed episode 133, friends. Hey, let me ask you a question before you go. Would you have paid 75 cents to listen to this episode? Would that be worth it to you? Maybe not, and that's totally fine. But if you happen to find 75 cents worth of value in any of my podcast episodes, I want to invite you to join my Patreon community. Because by signing up to contribute just $3 for the month, which is basically 75 cents an episode, you are helping me be able to prioritize making this content for you. As a thank you, you get access to Power Hours every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You don't have to come, you don't have to do anything with that. It's zero pressure. But if you want to get something done alongside me on Monday mornings, you just log into Zoom with me and some other cool people. We share our goal for the hour, then mute our devices, and we get to work. So it's this awesome time of accountability, and honestly, I kind of live for it these days. It's one of my very favorite things to kick off Monday mornings, seeing some of my favorite teacher friends from across the country. And anyway, that's the $3 a month Patreon subscription. You can also support the podcast for $6 a month. That also gets you access to Teachers Teaching Teachers each month, which is pretty much the most fun you can have learning on the internet on the final Friday of each month. Thanks so much for listening today. I will look forward to being back in your ears next week when we talk about what I consider to be the musician's guide to understanding burnout. Oh yeah, we're going there. Super fun topic, right? Until then, friends, onward and upward toward fearless creative living.